Hello, Lorraine.
Hi.
Has Tyler gone missing on you?
What'd you say about Tyler? Is he okay?
Yeah, no, he seems to be missing off uh, Guide Central. He's in the army in Singapore, so he might be off on
Uh,
doing something.
gotcha.
Hmm.
There's probably all kinds of stuff going on now.
So how's things been for you, Scott?
Pretty good. Pretty good. I had a couple things happen. A while back, I was just kind of hanging out. I was reflecting on like, do I believe my thoughts? I said, do I believe my thoughts? So I was just reflecting on that. And I'm like, yeah, I really don't believe my thoughts. And then I'm like, wait a minute. If I don't believe my thoughts, like belief is a thought, but if I don't believe my thoughts, I don't have any beliefs anymore, like, and I'm like, wait a minute, no, that's true. I really don't, because I used to feel like a lot of beliefs were like hidden down, especially the limiting beliefs were hidden down below where you couldn't really see them that good and they could be there that you don't know they're there. And I'm like, no, actually, I guess I really don't have any beliefs. There's some conditioning in there, but whenever I don't feel like I'm less than, like I just like that's all just gone. So that was pretty interesting. It didn't create this like huge wave of like relief, but it was really nice. It was like,
Yeah, but we we do have beliefs, but are they beliefs? I mean, I don't know. So, all right, let's say you expect, I imagine, you expect that tomorrow there will be daylight. Now, if you don't have a thought about that, is it a belief? But you fully expect that it's going to be daylight tomorrow, don't you?
if I have a thought, yeah, I
Yeah.
guess.
But if you don't have a thought, do you still have that expectation? Do you call that a belief?
Not until you have a thought.
Right.
It's not there until you have a thought, right? I don't know.
Maybe an assumption would be more correct.
Yeah.
You
Maybe we don't
assume
have
that,
to call it something. Yeah.
yeah,
But it,
To me, that kind of seems like it's part of conditioning. Like your nervous system gets conditioned to things that happen regularly, and
mm,
I don't know if you even have to think about it. Really, I don't think you
well,
do.
you don't
I
think
mean,
about it, do you? And you don't even know that you expect it until you think about it or we talk about it.
but I mean, the definition of a belief, like from what was a thought, and I can't see any. I can't say anything that says that's not true. I don't know. It just seemed to really release. Like I was like, oh yeah, yeah. And when I started to reinvestigate, like less than, and you know, all the other limiting beliefs, I'm like, no, like that's just not really even true. It's if it was a belief, it was only when I believed my thoughts. And I'm not saying I never like get identified with a thought. I do. In fact, I have another quick story I could tell you just recently that happened with that, but I kind of broke. I just anyway. It felt real. It feels real. It feels real. Like
So, what do you mean by feels real?
it doesn't feel like bypassing. I guess there's doubt comes around the corner. Like, is that? I guess that's what it is. Doubt tries to challenge everything. It seems like. So
So do you believe
so
that there is no beliefs?
I believe that I believe that I don't believe my beliefs, so there are none. That's the only. That's what keeps coming up in my head. I'm like, no, I mean, and they don't feel like heavy anymore. Like when I think about like, oh yeah, you're a piece of shit. You've never done any good. You were such a terrible person. Those don't hold the same weight.
Right. So,
That they.
can you hear what you're saying? This is a really interesting point. Stories about us, stories about this self. They're the ones that are really relevant, aren't they? They're the ones that we don't have beliefs about, or we don't know about any beliefs that we have about ourself. It's a different thing altogether when you start talking about apparent objective stuff out there. But it's a really interesting one because frequently when we do talk about stuff out there, we're talking about our relationship with that. And so we are still talking about ourselves. So again, it comes into play. But if we were just to talk about is the earth round or does the sun shine, or stuff that's pretty objective, not really relating to us, it's a different thing altogether. But what you were talking about then was all these thoughts were about yourself. And that's where the shit is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we get to that. We start off with, all your thoughts are bullshit. All your thoughts are just where the suffering comes from. But once we get to waking up stuff, then we've broken our connection with those thoughts. And then we can start to pay attention, or how can we can start to give some credibility to some thoughts because they're descriptive. They're about this, I suppose, is the only way I could put it. They're not relating to a self unless they have a hook into us. And that does happen. I mean, Marius asked me very recently, do does Trump trigger me? And I have to say, yeah, it does. He does. I have an opinion. I have a judgment. Every time I hear him talk, fucking idiot he is. Every time you see what I mean? It's just like, there it is.
I'm using the political videos as fodder for reactivity work, like
Yeah,
doing the
yeah.
gap work and stuff. It works great.
I've just got to listen to him talk, and the first word he says just, The hackle fries, yeah, he gets me for sure.
It actually started to become humorous now for me. Like, as long as I get that Social Security check, that'll be like the ultimate trigger if I can make it through that.
Oh, there'll be nobody to give it to you. They've all been sacked. Yeah. So it is. This is the thing, isn't it? It's our connection. It's our relationship to things that where the juice is.
Yeah.
So it's not even appropriate to talk about beliefs anymore until we get to maybe. See, I would have no doubt that the reason that, I mean, Trump doesn't get me like he used to. I mean, I used to get really angry every time I heard him. Now there's a fair degree of humour in watching him, but I still got to shake my head and go, I just can't believe this man. I just cannot believe. It's just,
You saw the Zelensky stuff,
it's
right?
incredible. Yeah, oh yeah, I did. I saw it's just, anyway.
So embarrassed for the United
Yeah,
States. It's terrible. I can't believe I'm like, don't. I know it's a story, and I won't continue, but
yeah. But
it's
see,
not
what I'm
that
saying
nice to live
is,
in a
I recognise that there must be some belief still in play for me to feel such a strong emotion about him.
yeah.
I think the beliefs are okay, but the identification with those beliefs are the problem.
Yes.
That's the same then. That it still eliminates it for me. Any way I look at it, they're gone. They're either gone or mostly gone. It still does the same thing for me. It's like it was like I had doubt in the same kind of, like, I didn't realize it at the time, but I had doubt in its own category also, and then that went, and the negative, limiting beliefs were in another. I kind of had them off to the side, believing or whatever, thinking that they were something different, and it just normalized them, and it was positive for sure. I had another experience. Like, I'll make it quick, but so a while back, I was watching a video with Daryl, that video series, and they talked about POK, perfectly okay. So I went there and to look at what they have, and they have like a lot of meetings, probably like 5 or 6 meetings every day. And I thought, well, this is a good resource. So that was right before I had the first shift, and then when I had the shift, I just dropped. I'm like, I don't need any of that. I kind of pulled back, but then Todd did he talked at one of their meetings, so I went to one of their meetings, and I see that they have these people, so it kind of rekindled it. So I I looked into it. I went to another meeting, and when I got there, they have all these strange terms that I guess come from their course, finder's course or something.
Yep. Yeah.
All kinds of strange stuff that just I didn't understand at all. So, and then so I sampled one, and I was like, I don't know. So I thought maybe if I just get a glossary and know their terms, I'll be able to experience these meetings. So I sampled 2 more meetings, and each one was like stranger than the next. Point is, I recognized this familiar feeling. Like I was seeing dissonance. I was like, this does not make sense. And I started having this urge to like straighten it out, figure out what's going on. And then I realized that, like, oh, I'm doing it again. I'm being pulled into seeking. I'm like trying to force this way. And as soon as not as soon as, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, it occurred to me, I'm like, oh yeah, this feels like those last 2 things. I'm trying to pin everything down. This is part of seeking. And then, like, within a few hours of I was doing some busy work, I just like, yeah, and I just let it go. I was like, yeah, it's just did not meant to happen. All these obstacles they're sending me a message, and I just let it go. It was pretty, like, I know it was kind of like a slip back, but I was pleased to see that, like, I was able to let it go without much
And
little pain at all.
and you recognise it happening. That's a big thing. Yeah. Sometimes we don't recognise until somebody points it out to us. So it's really good to have people like in this group who will point things out for you when it happens, because we're really adept at hiding from ourselves. That's something that we do. Yeah.
These groups are so beneficial. So I just love these groups because I don't know. There's just something about being vulnerable with people and knowing you're safe. And I just learned so much through these meetings. And I thought, well, I was transferring it, I guess, to this other area. And when it fell apart, there was a loss. It seemed like there was a loss. But anyway, it was nice to be able to just let it go.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, recognising these things when they turn up is a really big part of it. And the it sounds funny. The conversation I just had in myself happened so fast in my own head. I was going to say, so I really have a resistance to discriminating between awakened and non-awakened. It just feels not right to me. It's kind of like I don't. Anyway,
I don't.
yeah. But
I
once we've recognised the illusion of the self, and that kind of sounds a little bit objective, so I can say that, we don't have the need to protect ourselves to the same extent. We're much more open to recognising stuff that we once would have just avoided because it's an automatic process to protect this this thing called a self. So we'll say, oh, they're just weird. We blame them. It's nothing to do with me. It's just because they're weird, or that's wrong, or whatever how we put it out there. Well, then all of a sudden, when we don't need to do that anymore, we can recognise that, okay, that's just an old behaviour to protect, to keep me away from unpleasant sensations or whatever. Yeah.
uh, uh, I'll hang up after this, but I just wanted to say this one little thing. Uh, as I've been to these meetings, right, I wear a Fitbit, so I have my heart rate available at all times, right? So when you say, "Hey, Scott, how you doing?" I start talking and everything's fine and relaxed. But when I break in to say something, my heart rate goes up to like almost 100 beats per minute, and my resting heart rate's like 55. Like it just, and I realized that what it is when I was a kid, children were to be seen, not heard, and they're not to speak unless spoken to. And I actually remember those those
Yeah,
phrases being
me
used.
too. Me too. My
Oh,
father used
I'm
to say
just
that. Yeah,
so anyway. I just thought it was kind of cool when I like, oh, I know why that happens.
yeah,
Trying to work myself out of it.
yeah. Don't try it. It'll happen or not. Yeah,
Yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter.
it's interesting and a bit amusing. So you just watch it happen
My
and
heart rate went up 20 points just now.
talking about the heart rate gets the heart rate up, eh? Yeah.
Anyway, somebody else talk. Thank you very much. That's
Yeah,
all
well,
I'm
I did
here.
want to say to you while I'm at this, you've apologised 3 times for taking up all this space so far, and you don't need to, Yeah.
No, I don't believe that shit anymore. So I wonder why I'm doing it.
Mm. I wish I could have a little counter on the bottom of everybody's picture that showed me their heart rate. That would be.
That would be very interesting.
So, how's things been for you, Lorraine?
Yeah, good. Noticing a few different things. On one hand, I'm just more and more aware. Sometimes there's tears, sometimes there's absolute fits of laughter. Just the ridiculousness of it all. And by that I mean the identification with
Yeah.
self and stories and all that. It's so that's interesting, and I don't find myself and this happened over weeks and weeks and weeks, but I started saying, well, if I'm not this ambitious go-getter planning person, then who the hell am I? Who will I be? So now that just seems to be week after week, just
Yeah.
less attached, less caring, and much more happy to be in now just what's presenting. It's interesting to sit with other people and just watch the just story after story after story. I've just totally sucked in all the time. It's just interesting to have that reflection.
Mm.
Um, so on one hand, I'm really good. It feels lighter. It's freer. It's funny. Just reflecting on stuff. And then the other hand, I'm still every waking minute on YouTube reading books, seeking.
Right.
And knowing full well that there's nothing I can do to do anything.
Cool.
There's no control or whatever there, but I still find myself endlessly seeking.
Yep. Yep. All right. Well, it's good that you notice that, and it's appropriate to consider that rests on something, that comes out of something. So if there's still seeking going on, then we could logically arrive at a conclusion that there's still a feeling, um, well, let's just say something says that something is missing or there's more to find.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, the humor is great. I love it. I love it that you're laughing and so on, because what that's generally triggered by is a surprise, and that surprise is generally a discovery. So there's suddenly, you've got this turnaround that happens, and then you just laugh as a result of that sudden change of direction that goes on. So usually there's some kind of a, even if it's something that you're familiar with, that when it happens, you're surprised when it happens or that it happened. And so and the response to that can be laughter. So I was thinking when you said you used to be that, really go-getter planner, that's not the case so much for you anymore. Would that be the case?
I've got a business and I've gone into different methods of healing, and I did shamanic healing, and now I'm a DeMartini facilitator, and I had all these grand plans of I'll do this and I'll do that and I'll do this, and I'm just like, I just don't have any desire for that. A couple of my friends popped up and asked me for some sessions. I'm like, yeah, cool. But other than that, I'm just totally happy with what's presenting now, which is my normal business. I don't need anything else more than that. So that's nice.
Yep. Yeah,
I
great.
don't think they're striving. I don't need a second and a third.
Does it sound right to you to say that when you were, how could I say, pushing the river, when you were a bit intense about that stuff, that that you were trying to fill a hole?
I think I was feeding my ego. Um, I think there's also loads of old conditioning that whenever there's a skill, there's a business to be made from it.
Right.
Um, and there doesn't need to be a business made for it. And then I seen myself, in this, and then I imagine myself as, because this is to say it's a surprise is an understatement. Yeah, it's like it's like this size,
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it's knock you off your perch type thing. And you want to share that, and then I'm like, oh well, maybe I can go and teach people how this because this is changing my life. And I'm like, oh, there you go again, straight and sucked into another story and another opportunity, and
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah. Look, I get that because I can relate to that myself. Because everything that I've ever experienced and learned, I've taken it to the level where I've then started to do it. It's been through my whole life, that stuff, and here I am doing it again now. It's not, it's, so what I was going to say was if go-getting can still be there, it's your relationship to that's really the big issue, not the actual thing. So you might find that you still want to do those kind of things. It's where that comes from, and that's your relationship to them that is where the juice is for you to discover more about yourself. Right?
yeah, I find myself asking that question just this week because it does. I've got a love teaching. Right, I could just talk and teach and talk and teach all day, every day about different things um that I
We
enjoy.
need more of you in this
And
field for sure.
uh, but
Mm.
then I was like, well, just stop that. Is that just another ego trip? So I was questioning that. I'm like, just wait until you've got a full shift. And then you'll be sure that you're not coming from ego. And then, so all that sort of stuff's coming through. Um,
So let's examine this ego thing a bit because that's always something. Everybody's got a different idea of what the ego is. What do you see the ego as?
or what do I see it as in itself or how it's,
Yeah, what is it? What is an ego? It's not a test. I just,
yeah,
yeah. What's
it's,
your view of it? Yeah.
it's just thought forms. Isn't it?
Yeah, but let's say everybody has thoughts, but some people are into bolstering their ego. Yeah, well, there's Mr. Trump, doing that big time, eh? How can you? Right. So what we're talking about with ego really is um, the
So I
kind
guess,
of things that build ourselves up.
yeah, yeah. So it's like that shiny pride. And I
Yeah.
think I've been learning a lot about myself over the last couple of years, where I really had that addiction to praise that I didn't even realize I had. So there was this constant striving to be something, yeah, prove myself. And now every just I guess where I'm at now is I'm just questioning everything. I'm like, is this a true, I feel in my bones that this is my vocation, this is what I'm here to do. And then I'm like, well, that's just another more identification.
Yeah.
And then I'm just questioning myself, is this, I think it's coming from an authentic point of view.
Yep.
Mm.
And what about the idea that if our personality is developed in such a way that we used to do a lot of ego enhancement kind of behaviors, rather than just immediately judge that as wrong, what about the idea that what we're trying to do is something that didn't happen when we were young, and that whole behaviour is about trying to get what we never got, which was validation,
Yeah.
approval.
Yeah.
I mean, this hits home for me big time. That I never, I spent my whole life wanting to be liked for that reason. Yeah. So it's like all of a sudden we're not talking about the morality of it anymore. We're not talking about a judgment that it's right or wrong or good or bad or anything like that. We're just being descriptive, and we're saying, okay, then there's a reason why that developed in us. And if we can see that reason, almost immediately we'll recognize that it's actually not relevant to anything. It was an infantile or a young person's view of the world that developed that in the first place. Maybe. I mean, yeah, I suspect that's the case.
I kind of want to ask you, Lorraine,
Yeah.
what um, what is what is the uncomfortableness that is driving the seeking, or
Yeah,
perhaps what is the question that you were trying to?
I've been trying to sit with that myself. And it wasn't actually until today I watched another video. And I've been watching these videos again and again and again, but sometimes it just hit me again differently. It was the exact same question you're asking. And I've got this. So when I stop that and I listen to it, I've got this big lump in my chest. I've got this big feeling. It's been there for about a couple of weeks, and it just wants to be expressed, whatever that is. And it's there, and it doesn't feel uncomfortable. I just know it's there, and I know it wants to be expressed. And I'm really cool with emotional breakthroughs. It's beautiful, so there's a feeling there. There's a big heaviness of something there that wants to be felt. But I just didn't put two and two together that even the seeking was the avoidance of that. Is that?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, how how does it feel to not be identified as a goal getter, or how does it feel to not be as motivated as before?
It feels really good. It feels really, really, really good. Um,
Yeah.
because yeah, I just I can rest. I can watch a bit of telly. I can do things that I never did before because I was so busy achieving. It just feels really good. Um, but then again, I've got a free day tomorrow, and I'll probably just sit the whole day and watch YouTube seeking. um, um,
So have you explored or kind of looked at the sensation that is like triggering the action of seeking? I know that you have this
emotional
thing,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, but there is also usually, not saying that is the case for you, but usually there's a sort of a sensation that triggers you into action. Um,
No, I've not. I've not explored it at all. Yeah.
so if you can look out for that,
Okay.
um, and you kind of get intimate with it, the system might kind of pick up on that when it's happening, in the happening.
Okay.
And then instead of doing the seeking again, you might like find yourself being with that instead.
Okay.
It depends a bit on how you're built too. I mean, for example, I can see my wife's got something in her hand, and then she hasn't got something in her hand, and I ask her where she put it, and she's got no idea. She can't do what I can do, which is you can ask me what happened to something or other, and I can replay what happened in my mind, I can go back through and go, oh yes, I was in that room, and I can see what I did with it. Where she can't, it's just no, it's not. There's no good or bad in all that. It's just a different personality and a different way of doing things. So if you've got a bit of what I've got, that ability to replay something in your mind, if you go something like an idea pops up to say, oh, now you could watch YouTube. Now you could, right? Or you might be scrolling and you come across a video that, you think, oh yeah, well, I'll watch that. If you then replay it back to just before that moment when you said, oh yes, I'll watch that, or now I'll watch a video, or now I'll go and find a video, that moment, that very short, brief moment before that turned up, if you can replay that in your mind, that might well show you exactly what. And the idea is that when you replay that, you watch what you're feeling in your body. Watch your body, and you might just get access to it.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. I think there's already a sensation in my body thinking I've got a day to myself tomorrow and we're going to watch YouTube. There's already a reaction.
Yep.
So yeah, okay.
Also, I just had a memory of a lot of the stuff behind my own seeking before was like trying to understand the emotion that I'm feeling. If I didn't have the clarity in myself, it would be very tempting to find a video or something, some resource that could give me the answer of what I'm feeling right now. And of course, that is just a distraction. I could adopt some story or something that I find in that video, but it would be better if I just sat with it and found out for myself, even though it maybe didn't turn up the first try or the second try. I mean, just seeking for answers outside of yourself is just a distraction.
It's interesting though, so maybe you can help me with this because this is my excuse. So the very fact that I'm going through like the awakening curriculum and the fetish stuff is the very thing that's given me the awareness that I'm really enjoying. And every time I'm going to another one, there's more and more awareness. And I'm finding that really helpful. So what are you saying that the fact that I find that helpful is helping something that I'm distracting from?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think maybe it's good to kind of distinguish between seeking, which I kind of have for me it's more of a desperation.
Yeah.
And curiosity, exploration.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't know where you fall into that.
It's definitely a bit of both at the minute.
Yeah.
There's another aspect to this as well, that something that was a big part of me seeking was I came to realize towards the end of my seeking days, I was listening to Jed McKenna on audiobooks every time I drove the car. And I now recognize that I was getting high on that.
Yeah.
I got a real buzz out of it. Now, I've read something a long way after that that said when we gain some new information, depending on our relationship to that information, we get a dopamine hit out of it. There's a physical high that comes from getting information. It's almost like a sugar hit, except it works on a different part of the brain. But that's part of what the getting high was about. That just give me a little bit more of something that's really relevant to me, and I feel really good. That's something that I do. And quite the opposite occurs now. If I start watching one of those videos, any of those videos, doesn't matter who it is, even Pernilla, and I just love Pernilla's stuff. 3 minutes in, and I just go, "What the hell am I doing? I've got more to do with my life than to watch this." It's like I'm so full of myself that I don't need any, literally and metaphorically, that I just haven't got room for other stuff. I don't need anybody else to tell me how to wake up, or I don't even need to find out how they would do it. And I know there's a million different ways of doing it. It's just that. So there is this thing that's really relevant, and that is that there seems to be here a real sense of, I don't know quite how to put it, self-containment, or there's enough that I don't need new stuff. If I need new stuff, I can find it inside. I don't need to get it from outside.
Okay.
Oh, it's Tyler. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the old dopamine thing. I think I was like I came back on a plane on Thursday. I was maybe 8 hours between airports and stuff, and I was like, oh well, I could just put Andy Shanty 10-hour book on speed and listen to the whole book on the way home, and it just felt just lovely, just drinking all this stuff. But now, as you say it, I'm like, wow, I'm just a crazy person. Not a crazy person, but you know what I mean. I can see through
Mm,
this conversation that it's yeah, seeking.
yeah. And you got to be careful. One of the traps is to decide that something's wrong or right, same thing. That we need to not do that. It's better if we didn't do that or whatever. You're not going to find what's behind it if you do that. You got to let it happen and watch it in order to see. Yeah.
And I think it's having an effect on me just on the back of what you said, Scott. I always look at my sleep score in the morning, and there's two things I measure. I've been measuring a long time. One is the sleep score, and the other one is the body recharge. And usually, you know, I'm having a full 100% body charge at least 4 or 5 times a week, and the sleep score is about 85. And over the last 3 weeks, I'm only getting halfway on both. And like, what is going on here? There is something going on here. It never happens. I'm just knackered. It's probably all this seeking my subconscious gone mental. Um, but yeah, it's mm,
Oh, without doubt, everything gets stirred up
mm.
big time. Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention that when you're busy, like forget spirituality and watching videos, but when as you're achieving, being an achiever, running all kinds of businesses, finding more and more things to do, that's all distraction too. If you make yourself busy 100% all every minute of the day, you won't have time to feel the ickiness inside.
Yeah, I think what I might have done is replaced one with the other. So I've dropped all the business stuff and needing to business build, but I've now sort of replaced this with waking up and being an expert in the knowledge and question handling and on that, and endless note taking for future reference.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And if you're like me, you'll never read those notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also think it's good to remember that, life is just an unfolding. So whatever is in front of you is what's happening. You can't do anything wrong. So if you find yourself seeking, then that's what's happening. That's okay.
Yeah, it's interesting to realize that when we're talking about this stuff, we're almost always talking about doing something or not doing something. And none of those are actually what's meant. That's just language that kind of makes it seem like that. So it's huge to if you can really grok that nothing can ever be wrong. It's not to say everything's right. I mean, that's true. That's truer than anything being wrong, but it's neither right nor wrong. Everything just is what it is. And any opinion or judgment about the rightness or wrongness is a diversion.
And these conversations are also part of that unfolding. So whatever comes and sticks from whatever is shared here is part of that.
They're good. I feel as if, you can go, even within a week, you can go down a lot of little rabbit holes in a week and come back for a reality check. Not a reality check, but you know what I mean? It's just gentle guidance back to where you might be going.
Yeah. Well, I like to, I suppose, metaphorically describe it as we're learning a different perspective to the one that we thought was the normal in the past. And that perspective is an attitude, it's a way of looking at what goes on. That's really what's happening here, I think. That's interesting. I say I think, but I didn't have thoughts about it. But yeah, what I really mean is I imagine that's the case or something. How have you been, Maya?
Hello. Fine. When I'm not in the meeting or before the meeting, I always think about what do I have to say. And I thought, oh, I don't know, my work started now and there's not much to say. I was busy and so on. But now after listening to you, I don't know where to start. First, when listening to Scott and Lorraine, it spoke so much for me. The Scots, I believe there are some hidden beliefs that I don't know about. I have this belief and it hits so hard. And then Lorraine, oh, I might make a living out of this. And me thinking about all the time, yeah, I need to change my job. I need to do something else. And what else would I do? Awakening is everything I want to talk about. I might do something out of it. So this is also an idea. So everything. And then I was watching myself listening to you and getting more and more excited. And then this excitement is a sensation, a warmth somehow. And I thought, oh, I'm so at home in this group. And it feels so good. And I got so excited that I lose the track of the conversation. I'm not able to listen anymore. But then, okay, then I come back to myself after that. There were difficult things this week. I don't know, like my computer dying on my lap, for example. Something that I would get so upset about before. This time, oh well, it died. Okay, I have another one. I do have another one. No problem. So I just go over things, over difficult things. Oh, visiting my cousin. Okay, it's a difficult thing, but I just do it. It is what it is. Okay. Being with my parents, being with my mom, and neighbors renovating the flat below them. It's really noisy. It's difficult with my mom. She cannot bear it. And so the noise would normally be hard to bear for anyone. But now having the noise and having my mom complaining about the noise all the time, no problem. Somehow, okay. Everything's okay at the moment. At the moment, and until the next storm. And I had my moments on the plane. Lorraine mentioned the plane. We're with the group awakening, in-flight awakening group, I think. I'm a bit annoyed about this thing that I have, that I'm not able to see, that I'm still believing in a doer. So I'm sitting on a plane and I'm observing everything around me, observing those heads poking from the seats in front of me, listening to the sounds, smells, everything, okay? And I'm like, who is seeing the head? Who is seeing the head move? Who is perceiving the movement? Who is hearing what's there to hear? And I understand at some point I'm bullying myself. I'm now bullying myself, really. And then I thought, okay, this needs to stop. I let it go. But then I'm just watching the people, and I thought at some point, this flight attendant, she's so, okay, I see her acting a bit. She's very nice. She's too polite and everything. But she looks so nice. I love the girl. I love her girl. Then I look at the other flight attendant. I love this girl too. Other people standing up. I love them all. So that was a weird moment. I don't know why. I just let everything go, and everyone was so lovable. So not much to say. Things are going somehow.
Well, I'm so glad you said those things. It made me feel so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does there have to be a who?
I hear from you that it doesn't have, but I think I still believe that there needs to be a who that I have to find. Who I have to find. So I'm looking for a who, bullying myself, to find a who.
Yeah, because you're looking from the perspective that there is a who, but I'm
Yeah.
asking to step behind that perspective
Yeah.
and see who as a concept.
Mm.
So do you remember the cup exercise that I've spoken about on a couple of occasions? Do you remember that? Yeah.
Yeah.
What that's meant to show you as at an experiential level is that experiencing is all there is. And I almost said when it's happening, but of course it's always happening, isn't it? So experiencing does not require an experiencer or a thing to be experienced. Those things are only attached mentally. But your experience of experiencing will show you that when you are fully immersed in any experience, there is only the experiencing that's happening. The other things don't exist. They're absolutely not there.
Another thing that I did yesterday morning, a long time ago, I told you about me being able, for example, brushing my teeth and letting the experience be.
Yes,
Yesterday morning, I decided to do the same thing. Listen to me. I decided to do the
yes,
same
yes,
thing.
I
Okay.
heard that. Yeah.
I'm listening to myself as well. And somehow I was able to maintain this state for much longer, doing other things, brushing my teeth, but then
Yeah.
beyond that, going about around the apartment. So
Okay. So we get that. We get that. It appeared that you decided to do that. But where did the
yeah,
thought come from to do that? Why wasn't it a thought
just
about pink elephants? Why was it a thought about that turned up? And then maybe the mind said, well, I will do it. But whether the mind said
okay.
I will do it or not, it probably would have happened.
Yeah, exactly. I'm fully aware that the thought came out of nowhere, and then that I did what the thought said to me. Okay, again, me, I chose to believe, I chose to do what the thought said. Okay,
Mm,
I'm hearing myself.
mm,
Uh, but then afterwards, I was able to watch my hands preparing the tea, to watch my feet going down the stairs. There wasn't any me.
mm.
The hands were here.
In fact, if you replayed in your memory even the last 5 minutes, there would have been 105 things that happened that you had no thoughts about. I will do it. They just happened. You walked, you moved, you talked, you breathed, you did all of those things, and you didn't even know you were doing them. There was no
Exactly.
control whatsoever. There was just the happening of those things.
Yes. Yes. But the insect is sneaking up on me really slowly.
Yeah. So here's a possible thought. You know that when you say I will do it, and then you go, oh, what did I just say? Don't worry about it. Right? It's not the fact that you say I will do it. It's the belief that that's what was happening. Right? So we're going to have the illusion of a self, or more accurately, a sense of self, is going to appear all forever until you die. That's going to appear. But you just know that there's no actual self in there running the show, that's just an illusion that has some convenience sometimes and is unnecessary at other times. So it's not really the act of anything. It's not really the fact of anything happening that's the issue. It's always your relationship to it. you can imagine that some people, if you said there is no such thing as control, they'll get into a panic, or they'll get really angry, or they'll have an emotional response about that, because they have never seen that. They've never made that recognition. You have. So now you're confronted with the illusion of that stuff. But it's an illusion. It's not a delusion.
Yeah.
You don't believe it's actual. You've only got to think about it, and you realise that there's no self there running the show, don't you?
Yeah.
So if it appears like it is, no big deal.
Yeah.
You know, it's just an appearance.
It will be slow for me, but it's just like my whole nature. I'm very mm,
Pedantic. So,
no, not that. I don't find the word. Oh, I like the word
mm,
in
it's
any
bad.
language.
It's bad when the linguist can't find the word.
Yeah, in any language,
Yeah.
not even in Croatian.
I would ask my wife if I can't find the word, she'll find it. Yeah.
She knows. She knows what is there to say. Okay,
Yeah.
and what is there to think. Um, very apprehensive, slow, and I really watch out. This is how I do everything.
Yes.
There must be some fear of not being hurt,
Maybe.
but it's not. I don't think it's important at the moment.
Mm.
It's my nature. Okay,
Yeah.
let my nature be as it is.
Yeah. And you're discovering feeling safe with
Yes.
being in this place as well. So that makes it much more relaxing as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Not many fears anymore. Really, not many fears. I was talking the other day about having the experience of war, and it might trigger a fears now for anyone. But having the experience of war and listening to Trump now, I don't have the fear anymore. What happens, happens.
Mm. Yeah.
It's not happening
I'm
now.
totally sorry.
It's not happening now.
No, it's not. And it might not happen.
Mm.
Who knows what will happen?
Yeah. And we can
My,
imagine there's a whole lot of people world over who are really, really worried about it. I can feel so much compassion for, especially young kids, you know, who are faced with all of this, and they will be having amazing stories about catastrophe, maybe.
Mm.
Or maybe they're not in touch with it at all. Who knows? Yeah.
Mm.
Hmm. I missed you, Tyler. Well, you've been off on exercises or something else?
Yeah, pretty much.
Hmm. There's somebody at LU waiting for you to post their final questions or their response to the final questions.
Oh, I just did that.
Oh,
Like,
okay, good. Yeah, I've already read them. I'll jump in and confirm the moment I see them. Yeah, that was
alright,
that was good. Yeah, I liked her response. Mm.
I just read it.
You thought it was good?
Yeah.
So for both Lorraine and Maya, that's something that we probably haven't spoken about. But if you guys wanted to go and register at Liberation Unleashed, I'll immediately give you the final questions, and I have no doubt in my mind that both of you will answer them fine. And the consequence then is that you'll be able to start guiding if that's of interest to you.
Yes, please.
Okay, so just go and register at liberationunleashed.com and let me know your registration, what forum name you come up with, so I can find it. And I'll do
Is
that.
that different too? Because I'm already connected with you through LU bins. Is that a separate registration?
Well, no, if you're already there, that'll do. What's your forum name?
Yeah, so I'm chatting away with you. I think it's Welcome Grace.
Oh, yes, okay. All right, okay, yeah. So,
Cool.
right,
Because
of
you
course
and I
you've
were
got me there.
chatting back and forward, and I think the last question you asked me,
You muted yourself, Lorraine.
we were going back and forward for a wee bit, and you asked me, who was I? And I said, I'm awareness, and you said, well, what is awareness? And I've not replied to you since because I'm just sitting with that question.
Okay,
So,
right.
but yeah,
So tell me what now you're muted again. Tell me what awareness is. What is this thing called awareness? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know how to say it. It just is.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess the point of the question is to point out that what you actually are is really unknowable. You know, all you can know is you're experiencing, and even that is an interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll pop those questions up for you, and just don't be too verbose when you answer them. But answer them from experience, not no philosophy.
Okay. Yeah.
And then yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Lorraine, but from experience, is there awareness?
Is there awareness?
Is there?
Yes. Yeah.
Where?
So I am the awareness. That's just it just is.
Where are you?
I know there's no self. Um, I know there's this yeah, I'm nowhere. And
So,
everywhere.
so you're the awareness that is nowhere, but it is?
I don't know if I am the awareness or if it's more like there is awareness
Where?
here.
What does it look like?
Nothing.
What does it smell like?
Nothing.
Does it taste like anything? Sound like anything? Feel like anything?
There's no anything to it. It's nothing. But
Would you
but it
say,
is aware. It is aware.
yeah, so discriminate between the being aware of something, which is a description of focus, if you like, and a thing called awareness. They're different, aren't they? We don't, in our language, we often say there is awareness, but we mean we are being aware. One's a noun and one's a verb, right? And the noun doesn't exist as a noun, or it's an abstract noun. But it doesn't actually, it's not a thing. So this is the trap. So this is one of the things that the non-dualists go big time on. Now they'll say, oh yeah, you're not a self, you're awareness of the self. And if you ask them, how do you know that? They fall apart. They can't say anything. Because it's a logical conclusion. It's not an experience. You can experience being aware, but even that's wrong for me to say you can experience. So there is experiencing of being aware. That's as far as you can go with that. But for you to say I am awareness or I am consciousness is the same as saying I am a soul.
Yeah.
Which you can't know about. It's just a logical conclusion that's, depends what religion you belong to, what you're going to call yourself. Yeah. So if you really were a thing called awareness, Tyler's questions would have answers. You would say, oh yes, I can touch it. I can smell it. I can taste it. I can feel it. I can something, but you can't.
I wouldn't even say that I experience being aware. I would say that I experience sight, for example. Or I wouldn't even say that I experience sight. I would say there is sight. Or I wouldn't even say that. It's just what it is. So when there is, I don't even know what it means when someone says they experience being aware of something.
I suspect they're telling you where their focus is, which of course is a story, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no focus.
Yeah, there's no such thing as, yes.
Well, for me, always the biblical answer comes to mind to the question, who are you? I am what I am.
Yeah.
I feel like any I indicates that there has to be a who. And I am also more aligned with what Tyler is talking about, that there isn't an I or a who, or there is just.
Yeah, everything falls apart if we look at it closely. Yeah. So even I am implies some kind of existence. and I am that I am suggests that what I am is too complex to be described or defined. So
But
it's
there
another
still has
version
to
of
be.
this. Sorry?
Yeah, I'm just saying I am. Oh, even if it's too complex to describe, it still kind of points at somebody being something.
Hmm.
Why is it complex? Isn't it? On the contrary, it's so simple. Just being.
It's only simple if we don't look at what being is. As soon as we start looking at that, that gets shaky too. But yes, it is simple, and it's also complex if we look further.
And that's the key. Stop looking.
Hmm.
Just be.
But even that implies a doing. I'm just going to be. I'm going to do that. Yeah. I really love the concept of the mystery that we simply cannot know anything about the absolute, which of course is a concept, but the absolute of what anything is unknowable to us, and that includes ourself. So I am a mystery is as close to reality as I could get, which kind of includes stop looking.
Yeah, it's just this again, this need to answer what I am. Like there doesn't need to be that
Hmm.
need. I am,
Yep.
there's no I am that is anything.
So I would say a relevant answer to what I am is I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess I'm saying I don't ask that question.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm fighting with this AI at the moment because it keeps wanting to ask that question or versions of that question. And I just don't know how to get around it. It's got me buggered.
I love how reducing everything to this where we're at now just brings us to, or at least brings me to just
Yep. The immensity of silence.
Just isness.
Mm.
But I think practically the question, who am I, looking at that is more useful for the intents of awakening than not looking at it and just being, until you don't feel the need to ask the question anymore. Because it's a loaded question. Like, where are my keys? Assumes that my keys exist. But I think people find your chatbot asking that question annoying because of the spread of knowledge. So people learn an answer to that question because a lot of people speak about that question. There are lots of different answers to that question. And they want your chatbot to stop asking it because they don't find the question useful anymore. Because they know the answer to the question.
Mm.
And that actually prevents looking, valuable looking.
Yeah, so it's always been a bit of an issue for me with at LU, particularly when people start with look for the existence of a self, and then the idea that if you don't find it, it doesn't exist, which is just not logical. I mean, if you don't find your keys, it doesn't mean they don't exist. It just means you haven't found them yet. So that's a jump there that goes on to that. So it seems to me that there's got to be a better way to do it rather than to do that. And what I find myself doing is looking for what is there and so what the whole idea that the self is really made up of a million stories that we respond to, and it's not the stories that make up the self, it's the response to the stories that make up this illusion of a self existing. And so it's like that's looking for what is there rather than for what's not there. That makes sense. But I did have just a bit of a mini epiphany a moment ago about that. So instead of it asking who is there or what is there, I'll reframe that to say, do you think there's actually somebody or something there, or a version of that? So I'll come at it from a different angle, maybe. But yeah, what you say is true. That especially in the early days of seeking, questions that are relevant there are not relevant later on. Once we've had a little shift, or once we've seen through some of the illusion, different questions become more relevant, different looking.
I find that the average person who just found out about awakening and thinks of themselves as their persona has a lot to gain from the question, who am I? But that question actually gets more valuable for someone like Bianca, who feels that they are being and not the stories.
Mm, Well, I think, when it is a question, what is this character, this persona? I think now I have very mechanistic view of it's there are safety mechanisms. And they are going on, and
But these safety mechanisms, you see them as separate from you. Do you?
oh, if we talk about me as I am what I am, this I is so not personal,
Right.
but it's hard.
It really feels more like a sense than a thought, doesn't it? The being.
Yeah. When you were asking what it is like, what does it smell like? What does I thought it is like, it is not like anything else. It can't be compared.
It doesn't feel right to attach any concept to it. I was trying now to think about it. It's like water, has no smell, has no color, has no anything. No, it doesn't feel right. Or because water is a concept, then it's like the air, has no smell, has no color, you don't see it, but it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right to attach any concept to it.
Yes, so the point is not to define it, it's to look closer at it. And that's the use of questions like who am I when you're further down past the whole separate self personality stories thing. Dennis is group. Yeah, so when you look closer,
Okay, I've lied. There is one thing that I'm always comparing it. Being under general anesthesia. I mean, but it's not like, it's unlike. Because when I was under general anesthesia, I had no experience at all, no experience of time passing. It was just cut out.
No being.
No being.
Yeah, so with questions like who am I and what is it, it's not about answering the question, but looking closer. Because when you try to answer the question with words, it's like thinking you already know what it is and you're trying to communicate it. It's not looking at what it is.
Have you ever looked at if there is a sensation that sticks very close to thinking? So every time there is thinking, there is also a reaction of that very familiar sensation. So familiar that you never question it.
Now that you say that, it seems like there's a contraction in the eyes. I never noticed.
Yeah, for me, that was what was um, understood, or oh, I don't know how to say it, understood as the sense of myself, sense of me.
I was thinking of something I couldn't identify, but I kind of remember, I'm not sure its existence, and it was like a sense of ownership. Um, a sense of place, that things came out of this place. Origin. Uh, So it feels like a feeling, but I can't really place it anywhere. I think different cultures have different ideas of where that self might exist, and in West we probably would say it's somewhere in the head, whereas a lot of indigenous cultures would say it's somewhere in the heart. I think I read something about that once, but I don't know. But there's this, but it's like almost a whole body, but no upper body part of where is it where my voice comes out of? That's out of my head, maybe. Anyway, yeah. So but it kind of feels like some ownership thing.
Does it feel
It's
like
quite, go ahead.
does it feel like where your thoughts come out of? And then when a thought comes out and then you look at that thought, does that old memory, does that old thought become there and you're looking at that thought from a new thought or where the new thought is coming from?
That's how it seems to me.
You know, it feels much more like it comes from the upper body part for me. That sense of self.
My this what it feels like here is in the chest area. Here is my sense of self. But it's interesting what you're sharing or asking, Tyler.
It's very relevant. I think that recognition of it as a physical sensation, although it's very subtle, it does feel like it exists. Yes.
It is. It's the most familiar, how I see it, that it's the most familiar and constant sensation there is. So, but it seems to be um, a memory almost, because it comes with or is in thought. So if I'm, let's say, if if I'm immersed in experience, then that sense isn't picked up until I go to thought.
I think I was unaware of it until Tyler asked that question. And I wanted to say it's a memory that it doesn't exist now, but it does. It is there now. Yeah. It's very subtle.
But isn't looking also a thought? So when you're saying it exists now, you're kind of looking in thought, which is a memory.
That's why it's so funny when you try to look at it, you feel as though you're looking at it, but then you catch the you looking at it, and then now the you looking at it is a memory, and you're looking at you looking at it, and then when you go back a few times, it can stop. It just gives up. And then it doesn't feel like you're looking at anything anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And it gets super trippy when you do that while looking at your own face in a mirror, or in the image in the Zoom call.
I have a lot of trouble relating to that image. Who the hell is that?
Yeah, what the fuck is that?
Uh,
Sometimes I'm just reminded of this joke. Like, this whole thing is a joke.
yeah, when I read those checkpoint questions at LU, like I would consciously for quite a long time I look for a light-hearted tone in the answers. If people are super serious, I go, there's got to be more to look at. If you're taking it that serious, there's something missing. Yeah. But of course, when you go there, Marius, everything's a joke. There's nothing that's not.
Yeah. It feels good to laugh about it sometimes.
Absolutely.
I don't know how, and somehow I end up feeling sad.
From looking at this stuff, you get to feeling sad.
Well, it's looking and like Tyler said, it's, and then realizing that you can't really look at it. And it just is.
Mm.
And yes, it's like, why was I even looking for it? I don't know. It's just
So you could say the more you look at it, the less sense it makes. Is that got something to do with the sadness?
hmm, maybe it is always looking was also a mechanism looking for safety. And maybe it's about this mechanistic view. But I view all this as this mechanism looking for safety, or rather for feeling safe.
Mm. I would have thought that your mechanistic view of everything was about being safe, feeling safe. But the sadness is somehow tied up with that way of looking at things.
But it's futile.
Say again, it's what?
Futile.
Futile, yes. Isn't it funny, Yes, I agree with you. It's futile, and that makes me smile. I feel somehow I feel good about the futility of it all. Yeah.
Resistance is futile.
So is the feeling of safety available outside of you?
No.
So when you look for it outside of you and you don't find it, you still feel sad?
It's just this desperate mechanism that wants to find safety, and it's not possible. It's sad.
Because it's already there.
What?
The feeling of safety is there. It's just covered over by
Where?
doubt. You have to
What?
find it yourself. Sorry. It's covered over by doubt. It's doubt. You don't believe that you're safe, but it's in there. You are safe. It's just your doubt covers over the feeling of safety because you're safe.
Who is safe?
I don't know.
You make no sense to me.
He doesn't have to make sense if he's describing something that he feels. I can't relate to that either, though, Scott. I'd have no. I mean, if you ask me, am I safe? All I can say is I don't feel threatened. So logically, I would arrive at the conclusion that I feel safe. But safety is doesn't enter my life, or I don't ever think about it. But there are situations where I might feel threatened or unsafe, although I haven't felt that for longer than I can remember. But I can imagine that I could if I found myself in the middle of a group of drunken blokes who were being aggressive, I might feel unsafe. But when that's not there, I don't feel safe. I just don't feel unsafe.
So what's prompted that was the feeling of like similar to I feel like I'm not awake, and then all of a sudden I realize that I'm just having doubt thoughts, and then I realize, oh, it's already there. Everything we need is already there. It's just a matter of taking off the blinders.
So you could say that not being awake exists, but when you wake up, there's no such thing.
You realize it's a joke, just like
Yeah. So there's not being awake, but there is being unawake or not awake.
there's like, to me, there's believing you're not awake.
Yes, and responding
But
to
I
that.
don't,
Yeah.
you know, we're awake. Like, I mean, it seemed obvious to me. Like, I was like, oh, I just was making a mistake. I had to, I am awake. It was like, just became obvious. Like, but whatever that means, you know what I mean? Like, I don't consider myself awake, but I didn't know how else to describe that change of perspective, you know?
Yeah. So maybe I never made sense of the non-dualists who will say, oh, everybody's already awake, they just don't realise it. Well, that just sounds like bullshit to me. It's just not the case. But I would go with the other one where I would say lots of people are not awake.
I don't know. I just feel, it was just like, there was a sense of like, there's nothing. It just like it was a sense that nothing happened at all.
Exactly.
Yet
Exactly. Yeah.
I realized that I am already as I was. I don't even know how to say it. It's just
Yeah.
like,
It doesn't make sense to say. That's right.
just
So you went from not being awake to not being awake.
something like that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense, I guess. I don't know.
So do you think, Dennis, that all of those people at LU that read your answers were all fooled?
Were you one of them, Vince?
No, I went there to have a look and confirm, but you'd already been done, so I didn't need to do that.
It's just something you said earlier about if they're very serious, you think there's something unfinished. And I was like, I wonder where mine were fairly serious.
Dennis, I had the same thought. Like, did I fool these people because I didn't have this like all this shit that some certain people were talking about, this like feeling of like, oh, everything changed or whatever. I didn't have that feeling. So I was doubting myself, and I said, you know what? I think I just studied enough. I watched enough of these videos that I was able to change my answers so that they would believe that I don't believe that there's a self. So there was a lot of doubt there,
Yeah.
And
Yeah, but
and
it's I was just going to say it's kind of, in one way, it's obvious to see that they're all just thoughts after the fact, stories of the mind, another opportunity to go unconscious again. So they can kind of park them. But I was curious because you said, Scott, about, there was a change there was a shift, you said, and knowing or something was different. And I was curious as to what that was for you.
the only thing was different. Nothing was different except that all of a sudden I realized there's no reason to push. There's no reason to that I was already exactly as I needed to be. Yet I also knew there was more, unfolding to happen. But all of a sudden, I didn't care too much about, looking at more videos and stuff. I mean, I still watch videos. I'm not saying I don't and I enjoy it, but I don't get up and go, well, how can I plan my day so that I can get my 3 hours or 4 hours of videos and also do my, that's gone. I get up and I just do certain chores that are things that need to be done during the day. And if I want to watch a video or do some inquiry or I cut my meditation way back. I mean, I didn't do it. Now I just meditate for short periods of time. And so it was the thing that was confusing, not even confused. No, it wasn't confusing. Just I'm not awake or I am awake doesn't really matter anymore. That's really what it comes down to, I guess.
That's a very
Yeah, I
awake
think I can.
day. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can relate to that. What you've said, the way I would say it is, if we're really serious about this and getting down to business, in a sense, and I'll explain what I mean by that. The am I awake just becomes a mute point. You nearly have to just fall into the silence.
Yep. So that's a huge, I don't know how to say it. One of the prevailing something, I don't know what you'd call it, here is that not fighting what is, what 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 turns up has acceptance of it. It just there. So there's that relaxing in, there's that trusting, there's that sense of safety, if you like, all of that kind of feeling of okayness, that everything, well, I don't even think about what will be. Everything is okay. So there's that great sense of acceptance, not even surrender. It's not even acceptance because that's kind of doing something. It's just the knowing that everything's okay. And what goes along with that is no fighting it, no resistance, no wanting it to be different.
Yeah, exactly. There, there there was a question. I asked about the questions. Questions came. The questions were answered. Feedback was given. I can't argue with any of that. I can go into story and go, I probably did this or did that, which I didn't. But the stories are there to kind of distract from what actually happened. But there was no big deal to it. Like there was no. I can't say, the day before or during there was a shift or there was a new. knowing, or there was a different perspective, or I'm one with the world, and none of that. There's nothing
Yep.
significant. So I can only conclude that if there's any shifts or changes, they're happening very slowly over time.
Subtly,
And
yeah.
some other people, and some other people may have big awakenings that they write about and talk about and share, which are great to hear. But
Yeah, they make good stories.
yeah.
Right.
But if you start to think you're going to have them and you don't, that can be a problem.
And would it be accurate to say that you recognize that your expectations of a big aha moment was something that got in the road of you for a long time?
It was an expectation, definitely. I was put there by experiences years ago. Experiences of, well, strange experiences, let's just say. So the assumption was, well, those altered states or those experiences are going to be what awakening is like, kind of full time. That was the underlying part of the assumption. And I can't say, well, that's not going to happen now. I just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm no longer expecting anything. All I can actually do now is just, I can put words on top of that and say, be in the silence,
Yep.
live from the silence, which is what we all already do anyway. But there's a layer of story that sits on top to kind of
Yeah.
pull attention out of it more.
Makes a lot of noise, yes. Mm.
But all the noise is happening in nothing. I was curious, what was the question I came in on? I didn't get the question, but I heard the discussions about it. What was the question?
I don't remember.
Don't know who I am. There was a lot of discussion about it.
Yeah, there was discussion about the question of who am I or what am I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a misleading question, I think, so I'm trying to reformulate that somehow in my mind to be more useful as a question. And so
To
far,
me, it's a question.
hang on.
To me, it's a question that puts you in silence straight away.
Mm,
And then the problem could be that the mind climbs out of silence and asks it again. It keeps climbing out and asking it again, but it just puts you in silence.
mm. Yeah, the mind is very likely to get obsessive about finding an answer to it.
But to answer your question, Vince, I could go into story and start thinking about the people who looked at my answers or and have thoughts about it and question it. And I'm just not interested really.
There's no point.
Um,
Yeah. But you might or might not be confronted with doubt thoughts at some point in the future. Lots of people do get after that they wake up, but usually it's probably more so after they wake up with an epiphany. If they have one of those big moments where they have that epiphany, then that honeymoon period always ends, and when they come down from that, it's usually by being confronted with doubt thoughts. So at that point, that's something they have to work through again, so to speak. And doubt thoughts aren't something you can fix. You've just got to get bored with them, really.
Yeah, but like I haven't woken up, so is that a doubt thought?
Uh,
Mm.
That's a joke.
Yeah, I think it's better to have every now and then some doubt thoughts than to have none. Become a
Yes, we wouldn't.
become
Well, so this is a thing too. So, everybody that goes through this reaches a point where they go, how do I fit with the rest of society? Do I know something they don't know? Am I superior to those who are not awake, etc.? That's always something that kind of hovers around a lot of the time when this comes up. But of course, what's going to happen is you're going to go to work tomorrow or the next day or whenever, and you won't even give it a thought. This stuff, you'll just do your work. But when something comes along that would have triggered you into suffering, you'll go, oh, hang on, no, that once upon a time I would have reacted differently to that. But
yeah.
until that happens, you won't even know anything different. Chop wood, carry water. That's all. That's it. Yeah.
But it blurs into work too a little bit. Like you see people differently. You see innocence. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, your let's call it your bag of tools that you have are available to you everywhere, not just at this meeting.
Mm.
Um, but it's like you're talking about, um, knowing stuff more than others, but it's like the analogy that came to mind was it's like everyone's walking around the earth, and you're lying in the muck underneath, watching everyone walk around and drop what they're dropping and how they're living, and so you can see what's going on, but it's not from an elevated position. It's more from
Yeah. 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 And the other thing that will come up will be where you'll see people suffering severely, maybe, and you'll recognize quite quickly and easily how it'll appear that they're creating their own suffering because of the stories they tell themselves and their belief in those stories, and that will excite a part of you that says, "Oh, I could fix this really easily. All you've got to do is believe me, and I'll tell you something." But of course, don't go there. Don't do that. It won't. It doesn't end well ever.
oh, I do it. I'll tell them I just believe in the thoughts, and they'll get really angry. Just to see how it makes me feel.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it becomes a bit more skillful after a while, doesn't it? Yeah, you ease people into something. You don't just.
yeah. You can't confront them. You can't tell them that what they believe they are is a lie. They just get defensive and they want to punch you, yeah, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I had my first experience with that yesterday, telling a friend. And she's a really close friend. She's very open-minded and stuff. And I was just like, she's asked me what I'd been up to. And I said, well, I've been, looking into this and this. And I've realized there is no self. You're just a psychological phenomena. And just went straight into it, She's just sitting there like, no comment, no feedback. There's Lorraine on whatever tangent she's on. But it was interesting.
Mm,
Interesting. It stops there. The conversation stops there. Mm. Mm.
yeah. And you wanted to ask you more, but she doesn't.
I had a different experience. I was talking to a friend and I thought we were talking about problems we have. And I said to her, but it's just thoughts. And okay, the meeting went on. And the next time she tells me, you know what you told to me? It's just thoughts. She had an epiphany.
Oh, great. Yeah. Yeah. So that you changed her perspective.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And now it's an important thing that we had once. We remember the time that I told to her. It's just thoughts, you know.
Excellent. Yeah, you'll know when people are receptive.
You know, Vince, I want I feel like I am not awakened. I just have a very mechanistic view. I wonder what is the difference, if
Yeah.
there is.
That that is a good place. That mechanistic view removes the personal to a large extent. It puts you outside of the idea of somebody running the show. So it is an advantage to see things from that perspective. Getting people to see that they're not their thoughts does something along those same lines. It makes it much more of a mechanistic view that thoughts just happen. You know, we won't go as far as to say they happen to me, but that's kind of almost true. They just happen. But there's something about feeling sad when you consider this stuff that suggests there's still hooks in there that could be removed or loosened or let go of, or however you want to put it. And it's what you know. I mean, that's just one example, but they're it's what that's based on is a belief that also needs to be severed, seen through, not suppressed, but seen through.
But if someone says I'm not happy because I'm sad, it's just obvious that, yeah, you're not happy because you're sad.
But I like it that I'm sad.
Great, yeah. So there's no problem.
Yep, and all thoughts too.
Yeah, I don't see it as a problem. Like,
Hmm.
but
There's no
I was,
resistance to it.
Well, you said something about not being awake.
yeah.
So why would you say that you're not awake?
Do you want to be awake?
No, I'm just curious about it, about what you understand by it, because for
Awakening.
me it's just a very mechanistic view.
You have a mechanistic view of awakening, what it's like.
Of life.
I have a very mechanistic view of everything that goes on in this organism and thoughts, emotions.
So when there's no resistance to suffering, we could extend that to say, so no resistance to sadness, we could extend that to say there's no suffering involved. Would that be accurate?
I'm not even sure anymore what is suffering.
Well, does it hurt?
Of course I can be hurt.
No. Does the sadness hurt? Is there emotional pain involved with that sadness when it shows up? It only shows up when you examine this stuff, eh? Is it, would you say it's there on a normal daily basis?
Emotional pain. It's more like emotional discomfort.
Notional discomfort, did you say?
Emotional
Yeah.
discomfort. If it's not to the level of strong pain. Like you said, that I wouldn't describe it as it's okay.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's not okay either.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, it sounds good, Bianca. It's your doorway.
But I get that I agree, it is a doorway for you, but I rather imagine that you are not motivated to go through that door. You don't see any point because it's not so uncomfortable to be painful, yet it is somewhat unpleasant, but not enough to do anything about.
Oh, I don't believe there can be anything done about it.
Okay, yeah. Yes. And I believe it's something can be done about it.
But that's all right. Like that's you don't believe there's anything that could be done about it. That's good. That's your doorway.
But she thinks that door is stuck. That it can't be opened.
Oh, that's good. Feel that stuckness. That's your doorway.
Dennis has got some lubricant there. He'll help you open that door if you want.
I just
I
haven't
picked
heard a
up
problem yet.
on
I
I
remember,
picked up on you liking the sadness, Bianca.
yeah,
So is there an attachment to that sadness?
um, I don't feel anything like that I have to feel sad about.
Do you like feeling the opposite of that sadness? Whatever that is.
I don't think I've ever felt otherwise about being and these mechanisms.
Is there something good about the familiarity of it?
Mm, I don't. It feels appropriate, adequate response.
So does that mean that you believe that the opposite would be an inadequate response?
No, I don't know. It just feels like it.
So maybe the word or how like you slapped like on on it, but but it also sounds like you could like based on what you're saying now, you could just say it is without any like or dislike. Or is that not correct?
But I like it because it feels appropriate. I like it because of this appropriateness.
By
So
appropriate,
what?
yeah, sorry.
No, I was just going to ask. So what?
So it's maybe like if I cut my finger, I feel pain, and I like this pain because it's appropriate. Yeah, like it wouldn't be good if I cut my finger and didn't feel anything.
Is there
Is it
something missing? Is there a sense of loss?
Family's going on an outing.
Maybe the loss of non-being.
could it be that maybe subconsciously you're using that as a distraction from the icky feeling?
That maybe.
Can you articulate about the appropriateness of it? So, with cutting your finger and that pain being appropriate, it's because it's appropriate to the injury that's been done. So this sadness, what is that appropriate to? What are the reasons that it is appropriate?
The word that comes up is compassion.
Compassion for?
Mm. This is, yeah, it's strange. How can I talk about compassion when I have so mechanistic view?
It compassion could be mechanistic for sure. But yeah, but compassion for what? Compassion for who?
Yeah, for compassion for whom?
Yeah. Compassion for Bianca?
Mm-hmm. And all the other safety mechanism boxes.
But usually we would have compassion for people's suffering, wouldn't we?
Yeah, and it is, like I said, it's this safety mechanism, looking for feeling safe,
Yep.
so desperate about it.
Right. So basically what Scott's
And
keeping away from feeling unsafe, avoiding those feelings.
I have compassion for all the safety mechanisms. Running and tiring.
Mm. It feels a bit circular to me. It's like it's causing itself to keep running around.
Wouldn't, like, what is the purpose of safety mechanisms? Isn't it to protect something?
Yeah.
So what is it protecting?
Organism.
The organism as in
Separate from her, knowing.
Organism, like amoeba, human.
what does that include? Is it only the body, or is it the thoughts, or
No,
is it
and
the feelings?
psyche. Yeah, yeah.
Psyche. And what is the psyche?
Thoughts, emotions, feeling.
But aren't those the safety mechanisms?
Yes, they are.
So the safety mechanisms is protecting themselves?
Oh, just we go into language. If we can treat mechanism as object or mechanism as an algorithm, procedure. Yeah, so, and I think when I say mechanism, it's sometimes I mean object and sometimes I mean the procedure. Maybe it's uh,
So
but
which
yeah, there can be procedures protecting other procedures also.
protecting it from what?
Falling apart.
Who or what falls apart?
Well, mechanism as an object or mechanism as a procedure. Procedure falls apart, it stops working as it was working.
And the outcome of that would be annihilation, or what feels
Well, the
correct?
mechanism would stop working. That
How
is
would
the
that?
outcome. There was a mechanism working and now it's not working.
Yes, but how would that? How do you see that being experienced?
You are asking for an example?
Yeah, I guess I'm just having a hard time grasping this thing about a mechanism um, protecting another mechanism and what the outcome of that would be that would be worth protecting against. Okay, yeah, I don't grasp it.
Like Bianca, can I ask, was that just when you were perceiving a sense of loss, was that like the sadness is a grieving for the loss of self?
No.
No. Okay.
Um, I don't have an example ready in my mind, so and all I can think about is my rosacea, which is a mechanism that was protecting my skin stopped working. You're muted.
It feels like what Vince was pointing at, that it feels like a circular thing where there isn't really an answer to what is being protected or protected against, like the outcome of there isn't an answer.
Life.
Yeah.
This mechanism of safety are characteristic of life.
So if there is like severe trauma present, it can be like stored in your nervous system and kind of be separate from thought. I see it with my girlfriend.
Trauma is just
My girlfriend fights with feeling safe all the time. She says go ahead.
Just was one instance of it, but it encompasses all life. It's not just about trauma. you eat, you drink, you sleep.
So you're saying it's protective mechanisms of life, like okay, yeah. I forgot what the problem was. Was there a problem?
But it's sad.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it's a problem. That this sadness was what caught your attention.
Yeah, the liking of the sadness, the appropriateness of the sadness. And then I thought, okay, but appropriate as like as opposed to what? And then that got us off to this. I remember now. Appropriateness is just appropriate to that specific conditioning, right? For another set of conditioning, that would be inappropriate, maybe. And then from there, when that is recognized that that's just appropriate to the conditioning there, is it still appropriate?
Oh, I got lost.
Yeah. So you basically have an opinion about what is appropriate or not based on your conditioning,
It's
right?
not an opinion, it's just a feeling.
But a like or a dislike, at least how I understand it, is an opinion.
Okay.
It's a stance as opposed to being neutral.
Maybe there is still an opinion. It means that compassion is good.
Yeah.
Well, it feels entirely appropriate here that I go to bed now. It's getting quite close to midnight, and I'm just about dropping off here. Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Vince.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody. Again,
Bye bye.
love everybody here. Bye bye.